Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points in a game in 1962, an NBA record. That year, he averaged a half 100 points per game, also an NBA record. He also holds the record for rebounds in a game, 55, and rebounds per game in a season, 27.2, as a part of the 68 individual NBA records that he holds. He won a championship in 1967 as a member of the Philadelphia Warriors, won league MVP 4 times, and had been a 7-time All-NBA first-team performer and 7-time scoring champ by the year 1969. Oscar Robertson averaged a triple-double of 30 points, 12 rebounds, and 11 assists per game for the Cincinnati Royals in 1962, a feat that would not be accomplished for another 55 years until Russell Westbrook did it in 2017. He was the 1964 NBA Most Valuable Player. He was also NBA First Team at guard from 1961 to 1969, every year of his career up to that point. Bill Russell is known as the greatest winner and perhaps the greatest leader in the sport of basketball. He won 5 league MVP awards and is known for having more rings than fingers, all 11 of which were attained by the year 1969, his 13th and final season, and 2 of those chips came as the player-coach of the Boston Celtics. Many regard him as the greatest defensive player of all time, but blocks were not recorded as stats during his career, nor was a Defensive Player of the Year recognized. The first All-Defensive Team was recognized in 1969, and he was on that inaugural first team. The 3 aforementioned players accounted for 9 of the 10 MVP awards in the 1960s. It's important to understand that because in 1969, along with the defensive teams, there will be some other notable changes made in the league. Among those changes, the league will begin naming the MVP of the NBA Finals. The league would also establish a logo. Coincidentally, both of those changes would recognize the same player, Jerry West, a 6'3" guard taken second overall behind Oscar Robertson in the 1960 NBA Draft, whose biggest accomplishment up until the moment of being recognized as the first Finals MVP was being a 5-time All-NBA first-team performer. No chips, no MVPs, no scoring, assist, or rebounding titles. Just the agonizing pain of falling short for now the 6th time in the finals. Now, I'm not here to debate whether or not he deserved Finals MVP in 1969. He had a hell of a finals performance. It was the first time the award was being given out. There was no standard or custom yet established for the award. They gave it to the best individual performer. I have no problem with that. My question is, was that finals performance at the time enough to establish him as literally the image of the league? It is my opinion that Jerry West was made to be the NBA logo because at the time, he was the best white player in the league. Cousy and Pettit were retired by that time. Pistol Pete hadn't yet been drafted, and Havlicek was never considered as good as Jerry West. And this is no fault of his own. Jerry West didn't make the decision to put himself on the logo, and he was a hell of a player, deserving of every accolade that he has in his career. You cannot take that away from him. But there were players who were greater, far more decorated, and clearly more deserving of that distinction in 1969. I say all of that to remind you that we do not own basketball. We never have, we never will. There's no need to get upset at the attention or lack of attention that a player is getting. Dr. James Naismith was not a black man. Known Black Fives did not form until 13 years after the sport was created, and we competed against each other for 46 years before we stepped foot in the NBA. But unlike Major League Baseball, it didn't take 71 years for us to step foot in the league. The first black hoopers in the league, Earl Lloyd, Chuck Cooper, Don Barksdale, entered just 4 years after the league's 1946 inception. If we own basketball, Jordan's Jumpman, Kareem's Skyhook, Magic's No Look, Dr. J's Wind Up, and the Iceman's Finger Roll might be the logo. If it was up to me, the Larry Bird Trophy wouldn't recognize the Eastern Conference MVP. No. That will be the player that won the most Eastern Conference Finals in recent memory, LeBron James, still playing and all. And Kobe Bryant's 7 Western Conference wins would recognize the West over Magic's 8. No disrespect to either player, but when you introduce a new award in 2022, there's no reason to go back 40 years and skip over the great careers that other players have had. Magic will be on a Rookie of the Year trophy even though he didn't win Rookie of the Year. He still helped his team win a championship as a rookie playing a major role. The Finals MVP award will be dedicated to Michael Jordan because he has the most, and Kareem will replace the current MJ trophy for the league MVP because he has the most MVPs. Ben Wallace would don the Defensive Player of the Year trophy, and teams would not win the Larry O'Brien, who named it after himself as a sitting commissioner. They would win the Bill Russell. Now, I wouldn't paint the White House completely black. No. The Phil Jackson Award will recognize the Coach of the Year, and the Jerry West Award will recognize the Executive of the Year. And I would strongly consider making the logo Larry Bird. But under no circumstances would it be Jerry West. It's just that every time I think of the NBA using Jerry West silhouette as a logo, I think of the 5 Heartbeats. A white family on the cover of a black man's art. Again, every NBA MVP of the 60s was black. Russell, Wilt, Oscar, and Wes Unseld. No, we didn't own the studio, the arena, or the recording equipment, the ball and hoop and cameras. But everything that we put on wax or the court, we should have been recognized for. But again, we don't own the sport. But was it a deliberate attempt to undermine the accomplishments of those players? Or was it simply the cost of doing business in 1960s America? I mean, what's as American as racism? I know a lot of black people aren't going to like me saying this, but Caitlyn Clark is already the most influential player in WNBA history. And her success in the league is imperative to the financial success and growth of the WNBA. And the person that has to be thanked the most for that is Angel Reese. That little gesture wrote the first sentence in the story that we are seeing today. Feel how you want to feel. That's the reality. Every good story has a hero and a villain. Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, Kelsey Plum, Breanna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, they were all just as good, if not better, than Caitlyn in college. Candace Parker, Maya Moore, Tamika Catchings, Shamika Holsclaw, Asia Wilson, they were all just as good, if not better, than Angel Reese. Why didn't they bring the league to new heights? They were all very good players without an antagonist. So the story lacked. Remember, we've seen this before. Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. See, the reason why I would strongly consider Larry Bird as the logo is because his presence brought the league to new heights. He's the only white hooper in the last 65 years that you can say at some point he was the best player in the league, and that argument would actually hold up. He won 3 MVPs in a row. Only Russell and Wilt did it before him. No one has done it since. Not Jordan, not LeBron, not Kobe, not Magic, not Kareem, not Shaq. Keep in mind, there hasn't been a white US-born player to win league MVP since Bird last did it in 1986. That is 38 years ago. Only 3 white players born in the US have made All-NBA First Team since 1990. Chris Mullin, Mark Price, and John Stockton last did it in 1995, 29 years ago. The biggest win Magic had in his career wasn't winning an NBA championship and Finals MVP as a rookie in 1980. It wasn't winning any of his 4 other championships or 3 league MVP honors. Magic's biggest win came in the 1979 NCAA Tournament Finals when he became the villain to white America's hero. That's when the story was born. A rivalry was established with a player that was just as good as him before coming into the league. And that made every accomplishment that either player had a win for both players and the league going forward. When he was drafted number 1 overall and lost Rookie of the Year to the previous number 1 overall pick, Larry Bird, that was a win. When he won a championship in 1980 and won Finals MVP, that was a win. When Bird and Celtics won it in 1981, that was a huge win. When the Lakers won in 82, then the Celtics in 84, then the Lakers in 85, then the Celtics in 86, then the Lakers in 87 and 88. And the fact that they played each other for 3 of those finals, the wins kept coming in because that kept people engaged. And that's what gave the casual fan, white or black, something to root for, and that fueled the NBA's growth. Fierce competition has always been must-see TV, especially when it's a prominent white athlete going against a prominent black athlete. Oh, the dollars pour in. The Caitlyn Clark Angel Reese story is essentially Magic Bird's story. It's the fight of the century. It's Mayweather-Pacquiao. It's the race to Roger Maris 61. Yeah, it's that Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa. Would there have been that many eyes glued to the tube if only one player was batting for that record at the time? That's the bout that they say saved baseball. It even plays well in fictional works. Rocky Apollo Creed. See, every player after 1981 benefited from the greatness of Larry Bird because of the influx of white eyeballs that he had tuning in to watch him dominate. And yeah, we was watching too. We was in those arenas too. We wore the merchandise too. But it's important to remember that it's not a perfect science when one outnumbers the other 8-1. and when the median household income is nearly doubled as it was back then. Remember, the NBA Finals were tape delayed in the late 70s, early 80s, because there wasn't a lot of eyeballs paying attention to the league. The reason why the 70s is a forgotten decade is because there wasn't a top-tier white talent in the league. Bill Walton would have for sure been that if not for injury. Then Walton Kareem, Walton Malone may have been synonymous with each other, and Magic Bird would have just been the next chapter. In closing, although Black American players represent 70% of the NBA and 60% of the WNBA, basketball does not belong to us. While it adds drama to the story for us to be hating on Caitlyn Clark, internally, we should all be rooting for her because Angel Reese is going to benefit tremendously off the eyes put on that rivalry. Juju is going to benefit tremendously off of their success. It'll be about 6 or 7 years before we see her on that stage, but Special K is going to benefit greatly off of all of those women's success because of the influx of white eyeballs and subsequent dollars being invested into the WNBA because of Caitlyn Clark. The players have been complaining for years about commercial flights. Well, Caitlyn Clark gets into the league, speaks on it, and all of a sudden, charter flights are here. The two-time defending WNBA champion, Las Vegas Aces, had a game against the Phoenix Mercury last night. That game cost $6 on the resale market to sit in Section 224 at Michelob Ultra Arena that has a seating capacity of 12,000 people. That same section against the Indiana Fever this coming Saturday cost $91. So it would have cost $6 to watch Kalia Cooper put up 37 points in a winning effort against the defending champs. But it's going to cost you $91 to watch the Indiana Fever, who hasn't won a game, take on the defending champs. Let's do some math. We'll call it multiplicatelyn. Keep in mind, those are just the cheapest seats in a certain section. When you multiply $6 by 12,000, you get $72,000. When you multiply $91 by 12,000, you get $1,092,000. Let that sink in. Mark my words. When Caitlyn signs a new contract, it's going to be worth more than that $252,000 that Jackie Young of the Aces makes today. And Angel Reese will sign something comparable to what Caitlyn signs, and everyone should applaud that. We've seen the same thing happen in the NBA with the amount of top-tier foreign talent. The last 6 MVP awards have gone to foreign-born players, and none of this year's NBA finalists were born in the United States. But who's winning because of that? A 6'7" forward from Atlanta, Georgia, named Jaylen Brown. A player who's not even considered the best on his team. A player who after 7 seasons has 2 All-Star appearances and 1 second-team All-NBA selection, signed the largest NBA contract to date. A 5-year extension worth $303 million. Because the NBA, off the strength of Hakeem and Dikembe and Petrovic and Stojakovic and Dirk and Yao and the Gasol brothers and Tony Parker, and now Jokic and Embiid and Giannis and Luka and Wemby, has become a global brand, and revenue is pouring in from everywhere. It doesn't matter who the best player in the league is. They all winning. It doesn't matter who's getting more attention now. The ball playing will speak for itself. It doesn't matter your ethnicity. If you get on that court and you bust behinds, nothing can be denied. The best players will be the one hoisting the trophies, wearing the rings, and depositing a whole lot of large checks when it's all said and done. But every player in the league will benefit from the story. Now, instead of sitting in the theater talking over the film, trying to predict what's going to happen next, telling everybody what you would have done in the situation, you would have jumped in the car and ran, or you would have grabbed the axe, just sit back, eat the popcorn, and let's watch these women hoop. Go Aces.